Guys, we're back with the semi old school format. I hope you like the first video about the Madness deck, the green blue Yavi Maya Coast Wild Mongrel Basking Root Walla themed deck. Right now, this is a semi old school red green. I don't really remember what it's called because I just remember this just because this was my very first deck. I started Magic with the Ice Age expansion revised fourth ed during that era, maybe 1995, 96 ish. So this time we have a new format for that the red green. Call it the like a red green fast kind of aggro-ish deck. So let's start. Carplucent, we run 4 copies of Carplucent Forest. This is one of my favorite arts during that time, just because like Taiga was a bit more expensive as even until now. Like the duels are amazingly expensive nowadays. So we run 4 copies of Carplucent Forest, and the art of this card is really like one of those amazing ones from Nicola Leonard. And then we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mountains. And then I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 forests. The reason for that I'll let you guys know later on, just because forest here is part of the engine how the deck works. So I would use like pumpable stuff, like we call it pumpable during those days. You use 4 giant growths, so which makes +3/+3 until end of turn. I run 4 copies of Bloodlust. I think there's better cards nowadays that gets just like +4/+0. I just forgot the name, but Bloodlust, this was during that time one of those cards where your creature basically gets +4. You can ignore the -4 just because as it says here, if this reduces creature's toughness to less than 1, the creature's toughness becomes 1. And then you run 4 copies of Lightning Bolts, which with the late Christopher Rush art, one of the best red cards in Magic. Incinerate, you run 4 copies of this as well, just so because there's like creatures that may regenerate. This allows them to not regenerate at any point in time. You run 4 copies of this as well. Mark Pool art, and 2 fireballs, because during that time White Weenie was one of the staple decks, as well as like Necro decks who runs like Hypnotic Spectre. So at least you can destroy them in multiple and send multiple damage to them instead of just spending a lightning bolt for 1 creature. So you run 2 copies of Fireball. I like this art too. I just use a copy of Stormbind, just because let's say there's some extra lands you have that you wouldn't be able to use. Just get the heck of it, discard it, at least deal 2 damage to your creature or player. I run Zuran Orb, just so late in the game, if you're down to like less than 5 life, at least this is your lifesaver, your insurance there. Run 4 copies of Llanowar Elves, which the classic Llanowar Elves until now, until M19, the core set, the new core set that came out. Llanowar Elves is still, I'm just not sure if it's still a staple card until now. This is one of those engines, Tinder Wall. So 1 green to cast. You can sacrifice it anytime, because it was play this ability as an interrupt. So you add 2 red, or sacrifice it, pay 1 red, and sacrifice it to deal 2 damage to target creature it blocks, which is a 0/3 wall. It's one of those walls that's not useless. And 4 copies of Urnam the Genes. This bad boy is one of those like Urnam Gedon during those days, one of the staple green cards. I love this guy. I mean, the drawback in this case is not as Is I would say like Armageddon really would be the best combo, but the forest. I mean, really for a 4 or 5 body during that time, there's just a few low casting creatures with great abilities or with high power and toughness. Autumn Willow, she was one of the untouchable creatures during that time, though the high casting was the real drawback here. This is the only creature with Shroud at the time, and then you're the only one who can target Autumn Willow. Orcish Lumberjack, this is your main engine here that I was telling earlier. I run 3 copies of this guy. The main reason is because like first turn you play a mountain, and then next turn your sec ability would be this. Especially if you get a forest, hope you're crossing your fingers to get a forest on your next turn, because you sacrifice a forest to add 3 mana in any combination of red and or green mana to your mana pool. Play this ability as an interrupt. So your second turn, you play the forest, tap it, so you get 1 green, sacrifice it to add the 3 mana of any combination. In this way, you can either cast the next card here, which is the Balduvian Horde, because you already have 4 mana, or even an Aaron the Relentless because you still have 1 remaining red mana, or you can get your Urnam the Jinn to be cast on your second turn. So I mean, during that time, for you to cast a 4/5 or a 5/5 or let's say 5/2 with haste on your second turn, you're almost 70% winning the game. Especially if, I mean, you're just hoping that your opponent doesn't run counter spells, because it's like on the second turn there may be a possibility it may happen. But yeah, Orcish Lumberjack would be your engine behind this deck. Though I just run 3 because late in the game you don't really need. I mean, the Lumberjack, if it's already like the sixth turn, he's just like a display guy there. So even though he's the main engine, I mean, I'd rather use just 3 copies of this guy. Balduvian Horde, one of my favorite cards. Me and my friends, like, they're always telling me, "Oh, this is your favorite like all-time card." I mean, I like Brian Snoddy's art. This is like the cheap Juzam the Jin, but during that time, I think this was $25 US. At some point when Alliances came out, the funny thing is, just a quick story behind it is that Force of Will during that time. I mean, no one thought like Force of Will was what, not even $5 during that time when it came out, because it and the funny thing is it's only uncommon. This is rare, but I mean the swing of the tide, that the modern times. This was like what this is what now 40 cents, 50 cents. And then Force of Will is what, $120 now. So it's just amazing how, who would have thought, like, predicted. But Force of Will during that time, it was, even until now, is one of the best blue counter spells ever. If not the best, at least the top 3, top 5. But this, I mean, for to cast 5/5, the only drawback is the card advantage here, just because you'll discard a card at random. I mean, it's still a sweet deal, as not the same as Juzam, just because Juzam you have a dark ritual. But again, remember, we have an Orcish Lumberjack here, which may give you a chance, like on the second turn, to cast him as well. Like, imagine, like, on a second turn you have a 5/5, and then you can, what, next turn potentially use Bloodlust to make it 9/1. If obviously you'll just use that if there's no blockers, or like a Giant Growth, make it 8/8. So 1 swing, 2 swings, your opponent's almost dead. Then we have Aaron the Relentless. Relentless has haste, and can regenerate. Though I mean, the 3 red, especially red, it's not. I mean, red's the one of the hardest manas to get. And then I just run a copy of Shivan Dragon, just so there's a mascot in your deck. I mean, Shivan Dragon, Melissa Benson art, 6 to cast 5/5 flying, +1/+0. I mean, what more else do you want, right? So that's your main deck. I also put these guys as part of my sideboard. Tsunami, because Stasis was one of those decks during that time too. So as much or which there's other blue decks I just forgot, like, but at least this is your insurance against blue anarchy, just because white weenie is one of the staple decks too. So you might want to use this as your sideboard as well as flash fires. And then hurricane, so at least for the hypnotic specters, any flying creatures, because I don't run any flying creatures except for the Shivan dragon in this deck. Tranquility, for like Urnum Gadons for their land tax, sheep, Sylvan Library, those kind of stuff. Stasis, red elemental blast, anti-blue obviously. So I run I think 3 copies of this bad boy as well. Pyroclasm for again for white weenies or necro decks who runs what's those, Order of the Ebon Hand, Knights of Stromgold. Elven Riders cannot be blocked except by walls and by creatures with flying. Another good Melissa Benson art, 5 to cast 3/3, which is almost unblockable. I mean, for a 5/5 for a 3/3, it's not a bad deal during the days. So yeah, so this is your red green aggro pumpable fast deck. Again, these decks I'm showing are decks back in the days, old school, but not really as the same format as the old school we have right now. But it's fun, it's simple, it's again old school rules for me. I've been playing Magic since what, maybe been playing it 20 plus years now. I started playing Magic when I was 13 years old, and then what, 30, 37, 38. So my math is not, I mean, I'm not the best with math, but so we're looking at about nearly 30 years of Magic. So Magic's fun. I mean, I play this with my son at times. I mean, though he's into Pokemon, but I'm pretty sure soon, since he sees me playing this game, it's a nice strategy game to pass on to your children. It's not like something like really demonic. Not really. No, it's a strategy game. So I mean, imagination, everything. So it's not really like a waste of money, waste of time. This is one of the best games ever. Richard Garfield, one of the longest running trading card games up until now. Okay, so again, thank you so much for your time, guys, and hope to see you again soon. And I hope you'll be able to subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Instagram. Old Man Hobby is the same as my YouTube name, and I also do sell stuff at eBay. Same Old Man Hobbies. If not, it's at MARCMASIM45. Yeah. Again, thank you so much for your time, and hope to see you again soon.